Brother, I want you to think of the word average. I'm sure you're thinking of something unremarkable, something not that interesting, something meh, right? But here's the thing. I think that averages are kind of a lie. And I want to make a little case for you here. And the main thing I'm going to use is life expectancy. So take a little journey with me, and then we'll get to the whole point of why I'm bringing this up, at the end, because that's how it goes. That's how you do things. You hook somebody, and then you let them know what you actually want to say at the end. So let's go ahead and pivot directly into our point here, which is life expectancy, right? So you can see here, this chart shows you the life expectancy from 1770 until 2023. So obviously not quite all the way up to our current year, the year of our Lord 2025, almost 2026. But you kind of get the idea. You start out down here with a life expectancy of like 35, maybe, all the way up to a life expectancy of like 80 years, right? And the thing is, when you try to consult the internet and various experts and whatnot, and you ask what causes life expectancy to increase, you're going to get answers like medicine, public health, nutrition, living standards, right? You go lifestyle, environment, genetics. Why are we living longer? An in-depth look, yada, yada, yada. You've got the medical revolution, which is like vaccines, antibodies, healthy aging, nutrition, socioeconomic development, yada, yada. Here's the thing. I think this is all a lie. I think this is actually a lie, and I'm gonna show it to you right here. So you see here this very sharp increase around 1870, and then in Africa it happened in 1925, of just a steady increase in life expectancy. Well, you're about to see something that has something around that time that goes downward, and that would be child mortality. You see, the thing is, when you include zeros in averages, they tend to bring the average down. You'll see up until around the 17 to 1800s, the average child mortality rate was about 50% across the board. About 1 in every 2 children just got Thanos snapped out of existence immediately. But around 1950, the global mortality rate for children hit 27%. So you see that it about halved. And then if you go here to 1950, you see that you're about halfway up this slope here. So the thing that I'm saying is that the main thing that has increased life expectancy, increased the average age of people, has been decreasing the number of children dying. And I'm going to do one further. If you take a look at this graph, this annual death rate by group in the United States, and it starts in 1933, and you see here, down here, is 0 years old. You got quite a lot of people dying at 0. Well, if you scroll along this, the bars don't really change that much, except for the 0 years old one. The number of people dying at 80 to 84, 80 to 85 to 89 doesn't really change a whole lot. But the people dying at 0 years old goes down quite a bit. And this is a trend you can see in all sorts of countries, like Canada. Here's a pretty egregious example, 1921. Look at that 0 years old death rate, and then you scroll along, and it gets smaller, but the other ones it doesn't really get significantly more top heavy. The other one I want to display is the United Kingdom, right? So you've got a bunch of people dying at 0 years old in 1922, and then you go along, and like I said, it doesn't really get more significantly top heavy. It's just the 0 years old bar just keeps going down. So it's pretty clear to me that life expectancy, the average age of humans, is going up because people are dying at 0 years old a lot less. But you'll still hear people talk about the olden days when you'd be lucky to live until 35, which is kind of true. You'd be lucky to live to 1 years old, would you be lucky to live to. But after that, it's kind of comparable to now. Not quite the same, but comparable. It's not as different as we like to think it is. And this brings me to my point, which is that I think that taking things as purely averages is not necessarily the correct way to do it. And this brings me to a week ago on Monday. I had a average day, right? But the thing is, it was average because it had the like lowest of lows and the highest of highs, and then they just kind of average out to average. So I started out the day. I went to a doctor's appointment, and they said, "Hey, we took a look at your knee. We took a look at your MRI. You're gonna have to have a third surgery." And that's a huge bummer, because like having knee surgery means I can't do like this or like this or like this, like I'm gonna have trouble cutting up the rug, like doing the shimmies, doing the little stanky leg, you know what I mean? It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be hard to do that. Also, I live in America, so that means that's a medical procedure, which means I will be filing for bankruptcy, and that's sad. I don't really like that. That's not really what I consider a good set of news, a good time. So that's pretty much as low as you can get, right? But then later in the day, I went on a really amazing date with a lovely girl that I like a whole lot, and it was a great time. And this date lasted from like noon until 8 p.m. and we just talked basically the whole time, and it was really lovely. So like that was like way up here. So I had surgery down here. Like I'm, going to need to take out a mortgage on my soul because it's basically the only thing I own. But then, really wonderful date with a lovely girl up here. So then it just kind of averages out to just an average day. And I think that is, I just don't think that's right because it felt like a noteworthy day. That's really about it. I've said my spiel. Till next week.